know. I'm not about the appearance life, you know? I want the content to be around my speaking abilities. If you want to say my voice is beautiful, fine. Go ahead. Although that's a weird way to do it. Just a little PSA for the ZombieGrub stream here. Anywho, in the bottom right, as we get into a new best of 3, it is the Red Zerg ETpwnhome, which is a fantastic name. Big ups on that. In the top left, as the green Terran, it is Cuddlebear. We actually got to see some last week, I believe. He had a very tough opponent in Clem, if I'm not messing him up with another Terran. That he actually took a game off of, and arguably his 4th and final game versus Clem, he actually had a lead, I would say. But yeah, just the macro wasn't quite there. So he's got some very good things to show. I know Clem is a little bit hot and cold sometimes, where we expect him to basically be like a mini Maru. So we have like these high expectations, then he loses against someone you don't really think he would, or loses a map against someone you think would absolutely stomp. But I still consider him a player that's Apollo, by the way, he says hi. I would still consider Clem a player that if someone takes a map off of him, then that other person, the opponent, is like, you actually gotta be like, okay, hold on a second. Especially in TVT, which is one of the most brutal matchups, yet doesn't have, I think, the same randomness as like a ZVC. I think if like a Baneling hits you accidentally, especially if we're talking delay, again, Europeans are signing up for this tournament, then, okay, yeah, you know, it happens. Or the little hidden, like, Muta Spire thing, like, okay, it happens, Natus or Mullins. I don't know, I always thought TVT was more of, like, a real test as to, like, are you actually performing well or aren't you? Even though, yes, Reaper, Hellion, early game stuff can be absolutely bullshit. But regardless, we're not talking about TVT right now, we're talking about TVZ. My point was that Cuddlebear's actually been showing some really good stuff. He's not on the forefront of, like, any Terrans to watch out for. He's kind of still, I guess, below Future and Vindicta, with their recent success at Ozcraft, although maybe I'm the only person who actually cares about that. But I think he is on that list for sure, and it's just about bumping himself up by, for instance, participating in Cheesadelphia and actually getting top 4, top 2, or hell, even winning it. The main event will be online, unfortunately, as much as it's grown to be one of the staple offline NA events. But it is still an event, and we should still be very happy about that. So definitely give a shout out to Nerd Street Gamers. Definitely give a shout out to Joe Ploggydice, sometimes in chat, for actually making this all still happen. And Mike and X as well, I guess, apparently is sponsoring the event. So that's really cool. Reaper and barely gonna survive there. Can't really... Actually, he might just be sacrificing it. No, he's not. He just is being the cheekiest little son of a gun. Oh my god. It needs more health, I think, to stop the hatchery, but the queens, now they're blocking the hatchery. So that drone, I think it would have taken the hatchery, but the queens, there we go. And now the Reaper, oh, what are you doing? Stop stopping. Hoo. Hatchery does go down. I didn't really get to see what MMR ETpwnhome was, but I think he had a Master's border. So this is one of the situations, again, where I just expect Cuddlebear to win. But, you know, game, series, right? Apparently, the current stance is that we're going to be casting all quarterfinals and all semifinals, and that's top 2 advancing through this qualifier. Top 4 last week, top 2 this week. If it wasn't clear, I have closed the applause bot. It's something that I want to get into a habit of putting on the commands and loading it up whenever I cast, but yeah, we definitely have to consider that sometimes the cast will be on a delay. And that's not gonna work. I have a Reaper going into the main. That's really important because ETpwnhome is actually about to pop roaches. So I won't see the roach warn. He's about to see roaches at a fairly early time. So it's a bit of an odd push, but it is that Ling Roach all in off of the hatchery tech, no layer here, that can sometimes catch an opponent by surprise, right? The Hellions are the first thing to see it, and they're already across the map. Well, that's a bad time. But the Reaper seeing that, the Hellion seeing it even this far down the map, I think would have been enough, because Cuddlebear would have had plenty of time to buy time on that wall to actually get that battlecruiser up. Now, he might lose the third CC, but I actually don't think that would be enough of a push victory for ETpwnhome to be comfortable with that, considering everything else he's delaying. He is going immediately into droning, and that's really his only solution here, because he knows he's been scouted. He knows there's going to be some type of prep. If it's not a battlecruiser, it's probably going to be a Banshee. If you're making a Viking first, you quickly change over. It is a battlecruiser, though. And right now, Cuddlebear just needs to make sure that he doesn't let the Hellions die so the Lings do maximum damage, because the Lings are actually what's scary here. Anything else, the Roaches, the Ravager, that's even something that SEV surrounds can do well against. But speaking of surrounds, Lings trying to get one on those Hellions, but barely skirting past. There's just not enough Lings. Actually, half of them will probably shift-click on the SCVs, so I say not enough Lings. Well, they actually did a ton of damage to the SCVs, and they did effectively take out the Hellion. Cuddlebear actually probably making a mistake by going for a tank, and I'll clarify that in a second once this attack is over. We're going to be up to 24 SCVs killed. The wall is finalized, and he did not cancel that third CC. If this was a scenario where he canceled that third CC and got 25 SCVs, then actually ETpwnhome just got a substantial victory right there. The either-or option, I think, still is going to give Cuddlebear an okay position to recover from, especially because the battlecruiser should be able to guarantee at least some type of damage. But yeah, I just want to say that the tank thing, like, I think is actually generally going to be a smart idea. Unfortunately, the timing of it didn't really help. It needed to have a wall, a literal wall, or a wall of units to actually support it to make it helpful. Probably should have been on that high ground as well, but it popped out from the factory and I guess was rallied. But then the other aspect of it is that it is that tricky thing, right? Where, like, immediately first thought is that tank, good, high ground, defensive, good, good, good. But again, it's actually those Lings that make it really tricky. It's the Hellions dying that lets the Lings carry on, and Lings are going to kill those SCVs faster. They're going to get into both bases faster, and they're going to force the battlecruiser to run around and chase it for longer as well. The Roaches and Ravagers are really just there as a bust, which I think can be sometimes misconstrued. Because if I see only 6 Roaches, unless it's like super duper early, yeah, I'm actually going to be kind of happy about that, because then an SCV surround ain't too bad. But regardless, Cuddlebear held the third CC, and that's, as I said, I think the either-or scenario there still favors Cuddlebear, even though ETpwnhome did do a good job of droning up behind that attack and getting to his 4 bases. He also didn't take too much damage from the battlecruisers, but both battlecruisers survived. It is going to be going into mech here, and it's going to be a question, does ETpwnhome actually have a decent follow-through into the mid-game, or is it going to be Cuddlebear regaining the control over the map? Because, again, battlecruisers and also Cyclone Hellion. The Spire, not exactly the fastest Spire we've seen. If this was a macro game and he knew his battlecruisers right off the bat, probably, I mean, hell, already done. And building Corruptors. In this case, only halfway done. Clearly not going to have an upgrade for quite some time. And the question of how many Corruptors is also still up in the air. Because we're going to have 3 battlecruisers with Yamato as well, which is very typical for this style. It's something that ETpwnhome should expect, but it's going to be difficult to handle. So he's actually, I think, kind of trying to bridge that unit gap by going for a larger number of queens, when ideally, again, you have that Spire faster, you don't make as many queens. You know, it gets to an absurd number at some point. 9, well, it's already getting a little absurd. It's actually not absurd if he's going to go for a push, but his creep spread, I don't know if is actually good enough to go for the push I'm thinking of. And we have an infestation put as well, going into typical hooks in 1-1. So yeah, it's not going to be that push of Roach Ravager Queen. I mean, back when Battlecruiser, this style of play was actually, like, literally the only thing being done by Terrans. Because there was definitely a month or 2 where it was the only thing being done. There was a developing Queen all-in. I just don't think this is it. Well, those Queens aren't just good at attacking the Battlecruisers, they're fantastic for transfusing those Corruptors. And unless there's also Cyclones involved, they should have the time to transfuse them. Well, not if there's a Yamato. Which there are. One is on the way for our Terran. As you note, a later +1 attack, but that's okay. Actually, in a circumstance where you've taken damage, even though, yes, your opponent had to cut corners as well to do damage, it actually is a little bit surprising to see the second armory, but you do you would ideally actually have both in a perfect world, right? The upgrades are beneficial for all your units here. It's just that armor upgrade is generally the most important when it comes to this composition because the spell of the Cyclone doesn't actually benefit from the +1 attack. But the regular attack of the Cyclone does, and the Hellions do as well. And there's actually a kill shot difference when it comes to Hellions versus Lings with that +1, or is it +2? Darn, I forgot. See, if this was WCS Challenger, then Nate would just quickly come in here and talk for about 60 seconds about the math of this, but I don't got him around, so darn. Good cancel there in the hatchery and then skedaddle away after a couple of Yamatos. That was actually very effective. Cuddlebear using his battlecruisers almost to basically their utmost, considering the timing they were coming out and ETpwnhome barely getting those Corruptors out in time. They've actually been very effective. To see none of them die, but still doing damage out on the map, it's basically what you want, right? You can't ask for too much more. Well, I suppose you could ask for them not to build a Spire and then they die, but that's a lot to ask for. I don't think any Zerg's going to do that for you freely. More command centers on the way. We are going to be heading into that mid to late game part of TVZ. ETpwnhome going for the Swarm Hosts makes a lot of sense, but you got to be careful about going for Swarm Hosts against someone who does have either just baseline, a Cyclone Hellbat army, or who has the power to transition into one. It has been a powerful transition away from tanks. If you are feeling the pressure from Swarm Hosts, in the right hands at least. It's actually very tricky. We're kind of going back to more of an idea of bio versus Zerg when you're playing that battle mech style. But the idea is that, you know, you're going to be around the map, you're going to be taking trades. His Blue Flame Hellbat's almost ready to go. There we go. Blue Flame is done, and he is still continuing with the 2-2 upgrade. So he's going to have a very powerful battle mech army, and he is actually continuing to build battle mechs. So we only have a couple of tanks here to anchor a potential attack, but also for defense. And I actually really like this composition. Cuddlebear, having studied probably, I'm going to guess innovation. But Maru also has shown a couple of these games. This is like, this is exactly what we want. And oh my god, he actually got all the lock-ons right there. Usually you see them accidentally lock on 1, 2, 3 times on the same Corruptor, but oh my god. Or just not be in range, rather, of like all the Corruptors, right? But that was like every single Corruptor dead. Ooh, brutal. ETpwnhome going to be forced to replace those, and Corruptors are not exactly cheap. Battlecruisers are barely escaping there. Yamada's going to go down the Queen, take out 2 of them, continue to do some damage. They really should skedaddle, though. They really should. Looks like we had a Roach Ravager attack on the front lines, which actually ended up maybe taking out more mech army than I thought it did. Let me check the units lost here. 6 Cyclones, 23 Hellions. I think that actually was a bigger attack than I thought it was going to be. It was probably because Cuddlebear wasn't paying attention, or he didn't have the room to maneuver, which can happen, but it wasn't the worst trade. It wasn't the game-ending trade, so at least I didn't miss that, and we are talking more about the Swarm Host potentially in the next minute or two, but okay, not if they die. Not if they die. You kind of need to have 2 different armies, a Swarm Host army and whatever else army, right? Ling Baneling, Roach Ravager Baneling, what have you. Either stopping this from happening, or at least attacking elsewhere. But unfortunately, ETpwnhome had just given away his army, and while he got like a decent number of Cyclones, Battle Mech is also something that replaces a little bit faster, again, more akin to Bio. And I guess maybe he wasn't expecting the army to actually catch his Swarm Host like that. That was a brutal loss. Now, he has the economy to replace it once, and he actually still has a lot of bases alive, but I'd be very careful about losing 11 Swarm Hosts again. 2-2 is just about done for all of these units, melee included. It's all about the lock-on and move away. Looks like Cuddlebear was actually distracted, perhaps, by mass repairing his planetary. The battlecruiser's not going to stick around to actually potentially lose their lives. And that with the having a micro on 2 fronts actually looks like it kind of went poorly for the Cyclones. But again, like it's like, okay, yeah, he lost Cyclones, and that doesn't seem like it's too good for the mech player, but ETpwnhome isn't exactly taking these as freebies. It's not like a fungal combination or a Lings around combination that makes it really so ineffective for the Terran. Now, these are actually all trading out. And when you consider that a Ravager is a Roach plus actually transforming into a Ravager, each time a Cyclone is taken out for a Ravager, it's not exactly a fair trade, but it's not bad either. Like, every time I've said, like, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best for Terran, well, the Zerg army wasn't actually there to speak of, so it actually kind of was for Terran. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh! Oh, how did that not die? Oh, that was so close to dying. Oh, that's like the difference of it having like +3 attack on those swarm hosts opposed to just +2. Oh, or like one more locust. That was so flipping close. Oh, man. Oh, and that's actually pretty important, because if he's going to struggle to get that base up and then also have this base undefended against the Corruptors, he might have just lost 2 bases at once. As it is, he might just be able to save these bases. The battlecruisers could try and transport back, and it'd be, you know, give and take of either killing your battlecruisers or letting your planetary die. And it looks like he'll let his planetary die, and he's going to go ahead and exchange a 1-for-1 base. But he's going to have to teleport away when the Corruptors actually jump on top of him. The Cyclones tried to find the Swarm Host, it looks like, or maybe they did, but they were also caught by the Banelings and Ravagers, which was missing last time they caught the Swarm Host. The Battlecruisers will be able to take out this base, guaranteed. Yamato, they should take out the base, though, before they all transport out, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. He's going to take as best a fight as he possibly can. He's up to 4 Battlecruisers now. That's definitely a decent count, and they have those 2-2 upgrades. Well, they have 2 upgrades, I should say. They have the armor upgrade, which, already at high armor, they actually are very chunky units. And they have the option to repair, which is still a very good thing to do at this point. Repairing a battlecruiser is not exactly cheap, but it's certainly better than losing a battlecruiser. Locust that time, not as useful. We talk about trading out with a couple of Hellbats, maybe 1 or 2 Cyclones. Their power usually is in denying these bases or getting, 7 tanks or something like that. So good hold for that Locust Wave. Scan, I think, just went down on the Hive, and it sees the Spire morphing as well, so he knows that the Broodlord transition is on the way, but you gotta be careful about Broodlord transitions. Not only are Thors so much better against Broodlords, but you also are going to be adding more units that are slow, and... Oh, hold on here. Okay, no, the planetary should survive. Actually, that's a lot of Corrosive Biles. Oh my god. Try to dodge away with the SCVs. Maybe if they just all sacrifice themselves and repair, maybe that would have been different. Maybe building armor would have been different. Building armor wouldn't have affected the Corrosive Biles, but it would have affected the missile attacks of the Swarm Host. Anyways, you're making your army slower with Broodlords, and you're also going to have to really determine where your supply is going to go into when you have Swarm Host and Broodlords, right? So it's kind of tricky to transition over there, especially when the Cyclone Hellbat user is actually... I keep saying Hellbats, I mean Hellions. When they're actually on the front line pushing into you. When they take control over the map and you're trying to do that, yes, it'll hold 1 or 2 bases, but then they just start kind of taking control of their side of the map, and... I mean, this is the ideal scenario for the Terran's perspective anyways, but a very difficult thing to actually accomplish. Even there, we saw Cuddlebear probably able to take a better fight, but choosing to actually run away. He also finally loses one of his battlecruisers, not microing it quite fast enough. But yeah, he probably should have stuck around for more fighting. I think maybe he saw the lack of Hellions, was worried about a Lynx around. Maybe something like that. Because his army is very scary. So much of ETpwnhome's army are in those Swarm Hosts. And they're going on top of the planetary. Still no upgrades for that planetary. Actually going on top of the command center means cancel. No cancel. Lost the 400 minerals right there. Too busy focusing on the Cyclones that were trying to be attacked. Has to clean up the creep spread, because now he's actually potentially attacked into his own base off the momentum of creep spread, and that's just not a good sign. Cuddlebear is starting to lose grasp. If he can't get another base soon, and thankfully he's going to get this base back up, he will actually just start hemorrhaging way too much. It's a very momentum-based style, and currently it feels like ETpwnhome, after an initial loss of, a dozen Swarm Hosts, half a dozen Swarm Hosts, has actually been able to stabilize. He hasn't really taken any economic damage for a while. Every time the battlecruisers have gone through, they've killed a hatchery, but there's been another one to mine from. And the engagements aren't going as wonderfully as I think Cuddlebear was hoping for. Even some of these Banelings getting connections, which can be very effective against the Cyclones. They're not exactly super healthy, they're not super bulky, and they do kind of clump up as well, so... that's not a great sign. Another planetary to the top right. He is building missile turrets to deter the Corruptors. The Corruptors have been doing a pretty good job just not being purely about denying the battlecruiser, but actually taking out planetaries. If this were the old Corruptors, when they didn't have the P-on-you abilities, it'd be a very different story. Mass repair just does not work against that many Corruptors. It works against 6 Corruptors, I want to say, but anything more than that. And you better have something shooing the Corruptors away. It sucks, but it's the truth. And even missile turrets can't help you there. I don't think Cuddlebear's really ever been in a point in time where he could comfortably add on miscellaneous upgrades. He's barely gotten a +3 armor. But, man, I wonder if he had gotten into some of these extra upgrades. Again, building armor would not have affected the caustic spray, but some of the other engagements, maybe high-sec auto-tracking and the missile turrets would have helped too. I don't know. He wants to get a concave more so here. He wants to get the lock on, but with the banelings right on his tail, he can't really stop to get them. That's the complicated part. With those Houndlings on the front line, with a concave of units. Right now, I think actually the lack of concave is kind of what's killing his army most. You can see him maybe identifying that and starting to spread out his units a bit more. He's going to try and mass repair the planetary, but that's a no-go. He was really late to that, plus there's too many locusts anyways, and Cuddlebear is being torn apart here. I don't know who ETpwnhome is, but he's doing very well. He's got a huge bank. He is finally getting to that Greater Spire, but I actually really like that he didn't transition. I think transitioning at the point where he got his Spire actually would have been a momentum stopper. One that would have given Cuddlebear time to come back into the game, but just continuing with the composition that was working is actually the better call. And it's like, no matter how much Cuddlebear tries, he really can't get defenses everywhere. This is actually his main base, which funnily enough is going to do better against the Corruptors and the, oh god, it's going to be a complete surround, and that's going to be it. That is it. Cuddlebear. He's got to tap out at this point, I think. We go that far down to almost sub 100 supply, and that's it. He's not going to tap out yet, but maybe a couple more Hellion run-bys. I actually think that there was a noticeable lack of Hellions. I'm going to go quickly check back on this production. He has 2 reactors. I think you should have a 3rd reactor when you go up to 8 factories as well. But I don't think he's been using all of his reactors all the time. And that might not seem like a super big deal, but I think it is. I think it goes back to him not having the best economy at any point. Like, there was maybe like a minute where he actually had everything mining and he was okay. But then it was a lot of him being denied on either side. And I think it also goes back to maybe some of these Baneling hits or Ling surrounds going a little bit more favorably for Cuddlebear. Because obviously the Ling's taken out a bit faster the more Hellions you have, but also the Banelings crash onto the Hellions as opposed to your so important Cyclones and so expensive Cyclones. I feel like that might have been one of the reasons we saw engagements not quite go as much as Cuddlebear would have liked, but there was also some missed micro, having to pay attention in multiple places at once, and there was also sometimes, just as I was saying, a lack of concave when maybe it was available, you know? So it's a tougher style to use than what Maru or Innovation or Dream or whoever makes it look like, right? Cuddlebear still struggling to get above that 108 supply, this time because he just lost 16 SCVs. But the army supply at half out of ETpwnhome. At this point, if he did add on Broodlords, it probably would be the kill move. A couple of Hellions going down. The battle cruiser, I believe, teleported it in, so loses its life. Hatchery gets canceled or killed. Killed? Canceled. That is small potatoes. ETpwnhome is starting to be a little dry in the cash, but I mean, he's still got an army. Like, eventually their armies are going to fight. And with an army supply and that much of a lead, even with the most room available for kiting, I don't think Cuddlebear can take, like, a miracle engagement. This orbital is better against the Corruptor P, because you can lift and run while repairing, but he's not doing it fast enough. And it means that it's open to attacks by Lings now anyways. So some way, somehow, that orbital's gonna die. Oh, actually, or the SCVs on it are gonna die, rather. If he had taken out more bases, this would actually be a moment where it's like, well, if his kiting is amazing, but his economy damage just was not enough this game. ETpwnhome, I don't know who this is. I really don't. But they are showing some good stuff, you know? Like, a lot of resilience in this game. Cuddlebear did some good things. His build looked on point. His expansion process was fast enough. Maybe it could have been faster. He definitely took engagements that weren't great for him, and he also missed out on engagements that could have been great for him, sure. But these are all things that ETpwnhome either forced, right? He was attacking 2 places at once. He was continuing to expand himself and really take over the map, even though the creep spread has been pushed back now. It was actually to the middle of the map, or even then some, for a long time. And he's been able to keep up with the macro. And this is all while dealing with battlecruisers staying alive, which can be a real headache, and Cyclone Hellion trying to tear down base for base. But Swarm Hosts, they don't care so much about not having an economy as long as they stay alive, and after the first gaff with them, they have stayed alive. And you can kind of play a bit of the Migrant Zerg as well. 350 minerals, including the drone. It's not nothing, but if you don't lose anything else in the process of defending that base, then it's actually not as big of a deal the longer the game goes, right? ETpwnhome is just like, probably like, please tap out. I don't want any miracle recovery game. Please stop. Another hatchery gets killed this time. So he built another one over here. His income certainly has slowed. He, at some point, got pushed down to 39 workers and has not bothered to replace them. His economy is down to 2 mining bases, but still 2 mining bases that are healthy. He just needs more drones on top of it. So he could build more drones, and there he finally goes. Realizing that this game actually isn't going to end, which, I mean, I never blamed him for thinking the game would end. I would never blame him. I would have thought that Cuddlebear would have tapped out after the big surround. But I think now he's realizing, like, okay, so what if Cuddlebear, like, doesn't die? Am I going to be caught in some stupid scenario where I can't remax? Like, no, let's not do that. So, using his minerals to double expand again, probably a good move, and continuing to deny all the mining from Cuddlebear, because he can't afford a planetary. And even if he did, the planetary is not safe. Actually, usually using a lot of his bank to go into Broodlords. As I said, I think this would be a kill move, but he needs to get on top of the army to do so. Maybe on top of production. Oh! Okay, this is with the Locust this time. But the scan means that he gets like 6 Swarm Hosts there, something like that. That was certainly not bad, and most of the Cyclones get out of range of the Locust in time. Not that one though, please. Certainly a good pickoff. ETpwnhome back to 2 base fully mining at this point at 44 drones. Still struggling to get another base mining to the top side, and has yet to try and get one to the bottom side. I think now he should take this one though, because now he has his entire army here, and it should be safe. He's got the high ground on his side, he's got Broodlords on his side. Like, this should be another base mining. Because that's the only thing we're worried about here, is that potential he never mines a single mineral ever again past these 2 bases, and also loses all of his army. Like, that is such a Hail Mary. But it is one that maybe could work in a perfect world. Especially because we do have to always consider that the Swarm Hosts are taking up a big chunk of supply, and maybe they aren't involved in a fight. You know, there's only 7 of them left, but that actually is a decent amount. And that Roach Ravager is supposed to fall off. And Broodlords, if they're caught alone, also don't do so hot. Like, there are things that can happen. It just should be so damn unlikely. Cuddlebear has been stuck sub 100 supply for the past 5 minutes of me talking, but a lot of that supply is in an army that perfectly kited would win. It also needs to take care of these Broodlords, and for that to happen, it needs to be alone with the Broodlords. Because even alone with the Broodlords, he's going to lose some Cyclones, but if he's not alone with the Broodlords, there's anything in front of them, and he's never going to get a lock on. I know he put a couple of Thors, and they're coming out now. 2 Thors actually super good against this number of Broodlords. This is not a lot of Broodlords. But they also have a similar... They have a problem with this composition as well, where if they're trying to shoot the Broodlords and be like, haha, you're not doing anything about it, actually something will be doing something about it. The Roach Ravager will be doing something about it. And the Cyclones will have to decide to either stand their ground to help out their Thor buddies, or run away like cowards and live another day. So... The final battle, maybe? I was gonna note that a lack of Lings has been hampering ETpwnhome's engagements here, and it seems that he's identified it as well. The two Thors were caught totally unguarded against the Broodlords and are unsuccessful in taking them all out. The Cyclone's getting very, very low health and running out of room to maneuver. Finally, we get the tap out. Whoever this guy is just showed some pretty damn good anti-mech Zerg. Now, I don't know if Cuddlebear knows ETpwnhome, but there could have been certainly a misidentification on how to play that game. I don't think that's the case, though. I didn't see anything from Cuddlebear that said, like, oh, I didn't realize this guy was really good. What I saw were the same mistakes he would make against anyone else he did know. Now, I'm checking ETpwnhome's profile here, and I totally missaw. He actually is in Grandmaster, and pretty rightfully so, around 5,400. That is definitely a good MMR. I'm actually not sure where Cuddlebear is. Oh, it was Cuddlebear was in Masters, funnily enough. So that's why I saw Masters. I think Cuddlebear went into game number 2 without us. Oh, thank God he didn't. It already had them in custom, and I was like, no. See, I did see a Masters. I don't know. Cuddlebear is not even just in Masters, like, 1. He's actually in Masters 2. So either this is an account he uses to kind of dick around, or he's not been having a good time lately. I'm pretty sure he's not just Masters 2. I'm pretty sure I'm not as good as Cuddlebear. Although maybe I should reconsider. All right. In the top right, up 1, it's ETpwnhome. In the bottom left is the Green Terran. It's Cuddlebear spawning on Eternal Empire for game number 2. This was done with a veto system, so I don't know who vetoed what, or who chose what. But a standard map, a very large map, and pretty good for defensive play. Maybe not as good as some other maps we've had in the past, but it's still pretty good. You can block off, you can wall off these chokes, and actually have some pretty good pushes, bio or mech. Cuddlebear trying the mech thing last game did have, as I was pointing out, like some faults, right? I'm sure ETpwnhome was also making mistakes and having to like strongly consider what his plan was against what Cuddlebear was doing, because Cuddlebear was the one pushing, I think, the narrative onto ETpwnhome, right? That's the stereotype for Zerg, is that they're the reactive one. But you know, just going back to the first engagement where Cuddlebear, he saw the roaches pop out with a Reaper. He saw the roaches fourth away across the map with plenty of time to respond with his Hellions. He actually kind of mishandled the hold. And that can happen no matter how prepared you are for it. And I'm not saying, like, you know, my comment on the Hellion versus tank thing isn't a, oh, he should definitely know to do this. Because it is tricky. It's one of those things where 6 Hellions could have actually held against everything. You know, they get a better lineup of shots, right? Or the SCVs are pulled away, which probably also would have been a good thing to do. They're pulled away from the natural just in case they're involved in the fight. Then, you know, 25 SCVs actually don't go down at all. But I do think that was a scenario where if you're not going to pull the SCVs anyways, then you're going to have to actually continue producing Hellions. That's a tough thing to actually call for. That's certainly just like a hindsight 2020 thing. If it only works out this specific way type of thing, you know what I mean? So, but he did lose 25 SCVs to something that he arguably could have held losing only 10. Or maybe in a world where he's Amaru, it's 0, right? It was a lot of predetermined knowledge. And he still faltered against it. And his response, the follow-up of his battlecruisers and his mech wasn't as punishing as maybe it could have been. The battlecruisers lived, and they did a decent job of trying to do what they could, but ETpwnhome actually had a pretty good response to it. His queens pushed away the first attack, and the corruptors came out with plenty of time, so... Cuddlebear made some mistakes, but ETpwnhome is actually just also impressive. This might make Cuddlebear, you know, change things up. Maybe like, you know what, I'm not gonna try that again. But I also feel like that's a game where you could be like, you know what, if I don't lose 25 SCVs, I'm golden. So we'll see what his decision is. He's gonna engineer bay block the third base, which is very annoying, but ETpwnhome. I think what was most impressive watching this Zerg player from last game was not just that he was doing everything correctly, as far as, you know, responding goes. I'm sure both these guys are making lots of tiny mistakes here and there, but was that he kept his cool, where something that was very momentum-based, can snowball pretty quickly. Like, he was doing the right things, making the right composition, and also not just dropping everything in his attempt to deal with everything. Because it can be tough. You can see Zerg players not expand as aggressively as they should, or double expand, so when they lose a base, they just keep losing the same base over and over, and it's like, just take another goddamn base. But no, he actually did everything pretty correctly. I would say both players did, it's just that one person made worse trades over time. But anyways, I do think Cuddlebear's going to be the one that's going to have to just keep on the pressure more so. If ETpwnhome really is this great macro player with good defensive qualities, then Cuddlebear is going to be better off just continually piling on the pressure, where there were a couple of lulls in that last game. Stim, Bio, definitely a good way to pile on that pressure. He's actually going to go for Bio, or Fast Stim, alongside that Cloaked Banshee, which you don't see as a build too often anymore amongst the pros. Usually it's the Liberator with Fast Stim. But, you know, it's absolutely a thing. So third CC should be coming down as well soon. ETpwnhome sees both things researching, and pretty deep into the research as well. Just if he knows his timings anyway, he'll know that. And he also might just see the 2 bear come down, so he did. No chance of that being a fake. If Cuddlebear did cancel that before he set down his 2 barracks and set down factories instead, that'd be really weird. That'd be super late. A double engineering bay, third to see on the way. Henley and Banshee combination going to try and control that creep spread a little bit. More so, I think you can control the 4th base better, which is nice. But, ooh, he's actually going to sacrifice his Hellions now, decides not to. I think he might have... I don't know if he saw the Lings, but he was probably like, you know what? I don't think there's no Lings there. And honestly, the Queens were already doing so much damage off the Hellions, it would not have been a good idea. But, ooh, maybe finding access to the 3rd base? Nope, and Lings do come to respawn. 4th base is found out by both Banshees, and actually no cancel. That is a lot of lost minerals in the first 6 minutes of the game. ETpwnhome put a lot of emphasis on the faster Baneling speed. That doesn't surprise me very much. If you get the Baneling speed kind of immediately off of a well-timed lair, then you can actually get Baneling speed in time for any like 2 tank push. That can be pretty swift. Around 7 minutes it is usually attacked. And then I think there's like a drop. Well, I mean, there's 2 things you could do. But anyways, you could go for like a faster drop, which is not happening. Go for the 2 tank push, which might actually be happening. He pushes kind of like literally right now alongside taking his 3rd CC. You could hit that, and yeah, as I said, Baneling speed would be done with plenty of time to spare, actually. But Baneling speed fast does take away another option, which is double upgrades fast, which I think you would see more so from our established pros, especially over in Korea, are these faster double upgrades, and just working with better surrounds and map presence and run-bys to make up for any lack of Baneling speed. So that's the give and take. Cuddlebear, I probably would have wanted to keep these Hellbats alive. And I say Hellbats because he would have used them on the front lines, but that sucks. Cuddlebear now attacking in at 7:30. He should have a 2nd tank in the medevac. Whoa, wait, where's the 2nd tank? Ooh, it feels kind of late. Oh yeah, it is. I don't know what it was doing because there's a 3rd tank already. I don't know what the 2nd tank was doing. It was chilling, man. It was chilling. This is before combat shields and 1-1 is done. The anti-timing a little bit here from Cuddlebear, but the number of Lings not enough for ETpwnhome's anyway, and now he is up against 1-1 combat shield Marines. And these Marines, oh, they snowball so quickly in this scenario. If you don't have those backup Banelings or backup 20+ Lings that are just coming out now, you actually die to this. It's kind of stupid, but it happens. It absolutely does. And now the 2nd tank does join forces. It was late to the party, but it's here. The queens are starting to start going down. He's got to be careful not to take more damage from his own tank, because those Marines are a little bit low. Medevac should be running dry pretty soon, but the lane's trying to get on top of the tanks. Not working out here. He got two difficult hooks, but then actually never really got Banelings prepared for a push like this. Usually, a lot of these players are getting those fast difficult hooks just because they are so afraid of the two-tank push. And they actually have Banelings formed preemptively. But ETpwnhome making a huge mistake, playing maybe a little bit too greedy, not getting those difficult hook Banelings actually ready to go. He did also lose that fourth base just straight up. He lost another base here without a cancel, and he's gonna lose this base. Hopefully with the cancel though. Oh, Cuddlebear not paying attention, actually gets 2 or 3 Banelings, end up doing the job that really 6+ Banelings should have been doing. But now more Banelings are formed up here. Cuddlebear is, I mean, he still actually has the units to pressure here, and he's certainly keeping the creep threat from continuing on, at least on this side of the map. He starts up 2-2 back at home as ETpwnhome finally finishes his +1 Carapace. Looks like the spawning pool was actually sniped with that little drop in the main. I looked at it and didn't see anything really dying, but alright, the spawning pool was a good target. It is already being replaced, so that also, I mean, that actually I don't think affected the game as much as it could have. Because I think that died, I mean, it takes what, like 2 minutes to rebuild a spawning pool, 1.5 minutes? That didn't die when he made the first mistake, I guess is my point, which has really led to this staying longer than it should have. That ends up dying, so again, 350 minerals down the drain, and ETpwnhome is just starting to really miss macro because he's also losing out on the larva he would usually have. Maybe his macro hatchery wasn't as fast as it should have been. Maybe he's been missing out on larva injects because he's been under so much pressure, but that is not a good bank to have. And Cuddlebear finding a lot more success with this bio push than his play with mech. It's very possible that ETpwnhome is just more comfortable against a mech style. Usually not what you hear until you're like up into the like 6,000 MMR or something like that, but usually you hear more complaints about mech until then. But yeah, he actually could just be very comfortable against it. Good focus fire to actually keep those Marines alive. Those equal upgrades and no medevacs healing them meant that the links around might have actually killed every single one, but they tries to jump on top of the rest of the army and misses killing every last Marine. But here come the Banelings. The tanks could actually try and soak up Banelings just to trade, but I think it's definitely better to pick up those tanks and skedaddle. That was still a pretty good trade. A lot of Lings went down for a decent number of Marines, but damn, that was so many Lings. And if 2-2 were both done, that actually probably against the scenario where Cuddlebear just stays there. He actually just wins it. He does have his units up to the top side that should be joining forces to the bottom side. I think he'll eventually figure that out. Looks like Cuddlebear also might have had a little bit of his own missed macro because the 5th CC this quickly doesn't usually happen, but it's neither here nor there. The point is his army supply looking much better than ETpwnhome, but ETpwnhome finally getting his macro a little bit more under control. Also adding on some Hydras that will actually help him use his minerals and gas a bit better. And Cuddlebear is not using the full might of his 93 army supply because he's got like 30 of it to the top left. He's also being corralled into a corner. He's going to have to pick up. He does in the last second, but this time Hydras are on the field, so he can't just dance around with those medevacs. He really needs to draw this army, like, back. Like, I mean, the Marines can stay and basically be a drop, but he's got 4 medevacs, actually, that should be home. Leave 1, but take the rest home. And his tanks they're not good in small numbers anymore. He's actually at risk of losing 2 tanks for basically nothing. But even more importantly, he just doesn't have 2 tanks on his actual push. And I don't know why. He actually saves his tanks. I mean, more power to you on the control there, but I just feel like his 2 tanks have been so helpful here, right now. He has transitioned over into some Widow Mine production as well. He's got 2 factories, he's got 5 bases, and he's gonna start adding on Marauders. He actually chose to add 2 starports pretty quickly here. I was gonna check his main to see if he had 8 barracks. He does. So he should be adding on like 1 Marauder at a time, but very quick 2 starports. I'm surprised by that. He could just go for full bio factory production and probably win this game, but adding on Liberators, I mean, it's going to be another problem for ETpwnhome to consider dealing with. But ETpwnhome going from, I think, one of those situations where he actually would be dead, down 50 supply against a bio player who should have like attack 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually is dead, but he's been able to hold on, and now the supply being down by 30, but at a higher supply overall means that he can actually hold it. Oh my god! Oh, big props. ETpwnhome, now one of my favorite players. I don't know this guy at all, but I am a fan. Oh, Cuddlebear did not notice that. He loses a base. He loses like 20 Marines. And while he saves this base and is building many, many command centers, I feel like he's just actually letting his control slip away here. But a bigger drop up to the top, I think he actually sent more Marines over here, is trying to catch a base. ETpwnhome taking a little while to respond. There we go. Widowmine's burrow into the drone line. Those Lings actually unable to stand up against the medevacs and the Marines because the Marines now have 3-2 and an individual medevac for every single Marine. They target fire the hatchery, and that is taken down. Cuddlebear, I was worried he was being a little too passive and just trying to, you know, wait this game out, and that's going to be a time for ETpwnhome to get creep spread, to get a maxed out army, to get more burrowed banelings on the map, but he's not letting it slip quite yet. It was just getting a little bit too close for comfort, but that drop really helped out. It killed a large number of Lings. They were very ineffective with what they did, and it obviously got that hatchery, so ETpwnhome back down to 3 bases, actually more like 2 bases, mining. And no way he's going to be able to afford a hive and his continued upgrade, so he's just going to be down 2 upgrades in about 30 seconds here. Cuddlebear should absolutely have this game. But I do love the burrowed banelings. He's going to try and push and say, my army's not that big, please chase me, and then actually have the burrowed banelings. It's a cool idea, but the burrowed banelings don't do very much against the liberators, and this time Cuddlebear's going to be scanning. He clearly has enough command centers to scan all over the map. It was a neat trick, but it wasn't a game deciding and bring his momentum entirely back into his favor. Cuddlebear has quite a few medevacs. He's got 15 medevacs. I think he should stop building those. And he is. He's building liberators. These tanks are still here. I mean, they have dealt a lot of damage. But I just feel like they would have been so much better on the front lines. It's so silly. So many medevacs. Good control there. If you ever want to drop with medevacs and you have a billion of them and you're like, which ones, like, you start to kerfuffle because you don't know how to pick out the medevacs. The trick is dropping all your medevacs somewhere. Because only the ones filled with units will actually go. If you ever wanted to know, hot tip to ZombieGrub. Widowmines are not getting any shots, but the Liberators, oh, they got that Liberator range upgrade as well. Just took out almost all of the Hydras, and they're now going to take out the last Hydra. Nothing to take care of. That ETpwnhome couldn't afford a Hive for Vipers. He couldn't afford a Spire for Corruptors. He has gotten a couple of cool things here. The Burrowed Banelings was cool. The Ling run by, trying to do something, but he is finally going to tap out. GG. Cuddlebear, as I said, much better performance with the bio. But I would say that's also just, you know, that last game, I don't think anyone made, like, the huge mistake that one thing just lost them the entire game. I don't think that happened in the first game. But that second game, I really feel like ETpwnhome not having Banelings prepared for a typical push, one that he seemed to be preparing specifically for, was that actual game-ending mistake that he would have had to make up for by having a really good run by or a really convincing second fight, and he just didn't. The second fight was weird and awkward. Third fight was weird and awkward. Fourth fight, he lost his 2 bases. He just kept on losing there. But the Burrowed Banelings, I'm a big fan. I hope to see it again. I think if he does just fix that, either he has more Lings and Queens in the front line as well to try and take a better engagement against those Marines, which is a questionable thing to do. Also surround, maybe. But it's always a little bit questionable just because you're hitting a very good timing for the Terran. They got 1-1, they got combat shields, they got 2 tanks. That's a lot to offer. So generally, the real foolproof thing to do is just to make a couple Banelings alongside a decent number of Lings and Queens. And also a surround. But anyways, he needed to do something a lot more. And if he does that this time, which I believe he's fully capable of doing, then we're going to have a pretty even bio game. Last game's going to be on Nightshade. In the bottom right is the red Zerg. It is ETpwnhome. And in the top left, as the green Terran, it is a Cuddlebear. I brought up their MMRs at the beginning of the last game, and I just want to clarify that Cuddlebear absolutely is not Masters 2, I don't know what his account's doing there. But also, if ETpwnhome is 5,400, or maybe higher, maybe he's still working his account back up there, then Cuddlebear would absolutely know him, I believe. They probably hit each other a decent amount on ladder, and he would have an approximate knowledge of how well he plays. Probably not enough to be like, yeah, he obviously, you know, he's bad against Bio and he's good against Mac. Like, they're not playing each other that often, or probably under barcodes and other nicknames, but I think there's some mutual respect. Certainly after that first game, that lasted 25 minutes. Cuddlebear, he looked good for the first 10 minutes of the last game, but I will be heavily critical because I think it's incredibly likely that ETpwnhome is actually defending that first 2-tank push. I think it's got to be the case. And then if that is the case, and we go on to the next stages of a Bio versus Zerg game, then Cuddlebear actually would have to like kind of tighten up the follow through, as having the resources to build a 4th and a 5th at the same time is not actually what you want to see usually. Transitioning into Liberators as quickly as he did is not usually something you would see. Like, it felt like he either was very comfortable and kind of let things, like, you know, kind of fall to the wayside a little bit, which makes sense. He was in a pretty damn big lead. Or he actually does struggle to keep up the momentum, which, I mean, it's so difficult to do. It's, I mean, not to make any balance complaints or anything like that, guys. Ooh, 2-base lair. Ooh, okay. But not to make any balance complaints, guys, but, like, you just have to be constantly on when you're playing Bio. And that lets a lot of other things fall through the cracks, unless you're really, really, really damn good. So, I'm just trying to both be like, yeah, he could have mistakes there, he could have weaknesses there, as well as be like, yeah, but it's understandable and he's also really still good, you know? Trying to walk that line. Whereas ETpwnhome, again, just made that one mistake, I'd say was just snowballed into everything else, and it's not even really worth discussing his versus Bio play with such a big mistake in that first engagement, and it's not worth discussing because in this game, he's not even going for a reactive type of game. He's going for Roachborn, he's going for a Nidus Worm. I thought this might be 2-base Spire. It kind of has made its way back into this into the game. I don't think it's very good. I think a 3-base, like, low economy Spire is a bit better, but also very difficult to actually use against Terrans who know what they're doing. But 2-base, Nidus, Roach, I think that's more powerful, and it's not going to be scouted here. Cuddlebear, he's going to see no 3rd base, but you still have that question. Is it 2-base lair or is it 2-base Nidus? And if you start looking around for the Nidus at this point, it's already a little bit too late, and you don't have things that actually take it down anyways. A full surround with SCVs is not going to be enough unless you have, you know, 6 Helens also firing. So he knows that something is up. He's going to transition over into a barracks with a reactor for Marines and a tech lab on top of that factory, which is the best thing he can do. And he also wants to try and provide as much of a wall as possible, knowing the Nidus Worm, if it comes down, is going to be to the right side. The Banshee's going to help a little bit here, but ETpwnhome can make an Overseer with this Overlord to help out the Queens that come through with this, and this is going to be a really tough hold. ETpwnhome going to be looking to be a bit of an upset. His MMR might not be so bad, but as far as name brand here, we recognize Cuddlebear so much more. We expect him to get through the Cheesadelphia Qualifiers, and this isn't his last chance. It's one that he thought he probably had a better chance in doing so than last time, and I don't know what's going to happen, guys. ETpwnhome, the very powerful attack. The tank is about halfway done, but another Nidus Worm is coming up to the natural, so there's going to be multiple attack paths. That tank is going to be surrounded as well. There's no way that they can safely escape, and he needs that tank to hold. He knows that as well. Cloak was denied, so no need for the Overseer anyways. The tank is going to have to free fire with its regular DPS, which wouldn't be so bad if it survived. The SCVs actually would have been better off trying to repair that tank than trying to tackle the Roaches. They try so desperately, there's still so many units left over, and ETpwnhome getting 6 more Roaches still has a Nidus Worm to actually send those through. Cuddlebear is on 2 orbitals down to 21 workers, but that's still recoverable if he can actually hold. There's only a 4-worker difference. They're both on 2 bases. He just needs to actually hold and stop taking damage. But what has he got to actually do that with? He can mass repair this Banshee as the Queens try to transfuse, but another Nidus Worm on the main base, another Nidus Worm on the natural. Cuddlebear is probably so disappointed. He thought that this was a good bracket for him, but he might actually be dying here to ETpwnhome. A second tank was produced, but unfortunately that Nidus Worm right near it is going to stop from actually doing as much damage as it needs. Oh my god, this positioning is actually absolutely brutal. Okay, finally more Roaches get on top of it, but it's too much. ETpwnhome with the killer instinct Another thing I gotta applaud here, it actually takes the series, because a lot of the time with developing pros, people you don't see very often down the line in tournaments, it's because they don't have a killer instinct. They let games go that they absolutely should have won.